So welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to those of you who are not first years, and welcome to those of you who are. It's a struggle semester to start your first semester of college, but congratulations on getting in, and we're going to make it as great as it can be. We're going to start with the syllabus review. First, I'm actually going to tell you a little bit about myself because you're not going to see me this semester, but you should probably know who this voice from the internet is. Then we'll talk about the syllabus, we'll have a break, and then we'll talk about chapter 1. So I hail from the great state of New Jersey, who is struggling right now with this pandemic. And red is a little intimidating. Let's change it to black. I went to school in Pennsylvania for my undergrad. Went to a little private college that nobody's heard of. Got a bachelor's in biochemistry. From there, I went to Michigan, the University of Michigan, go blue, and got my PhD in biochemistry. Ironically, the colors of U of M are also like the same colors as A and T, so clearly it was destiny, right? Meant to be here for y'all. Then from there, I moved down here originally for a position at Chapel Hill as a postdoc, a teaching postdoc. And during that time, I got pregnant with my second child, and I was like, I think I want to be a mom. So I took a little time off, and I was just mommy, and it was great. And now I'm back. Started teaching at A&T in the chemistry department. I love it. And still a mom, still crazy, mommy brain. I'm pregnant with number 4, y'all. So give me some grace. 11 o'clock is a great time. I teach another class at 8 a.m. on Mondays. That's strong. But sometimes I may have mommy brain, or I may use examples that are like Paw Patrol, and you're like, we're grown. I know, it's not you, it's me. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm here, I'm a little bit crazy, but hopefully in a good way, like that crazy Aunt Jackie that everybody loves. Okay. So now we'll talk about the syllabus. Key information for Chem 104. If you have never taken a chemistry course as a college student or a math course as a college student, chemistry is very time consuming. So you need to treat it with respect. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're having baby boy number 3, baby number 4. So it's going to be a zoo. Well, more of a zoo. I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. So I'm insane. Anyway, so chemistry is very time consuming. Treat it with respect. This is a 3 credit hour course. Yes, it's online and we only meet for 2.5 hours. But if you saw the chapter 1 lecture, that was about an hour. And that first chapter is about as easy as it gets. So I'm going to just throw that out there now. You need to commit the time to watch the lectures and take notes, do practice problems, and do your homework on mastering chemistry, the chapter check-ins, which we'll talk about that stuff in detail a little bit later on. Treat it with respect. Give it the time that you can. Now, I know people still working. Maybe you have kids. Take care of siblings. Take care of parents, grandparents, whoever. So I understand. When I was in school, I didn't have all the time in the world. I was working too. I had to work to be able to stay on campus. So I get that there are other things competing for your time. But understand that you need to prioritize this when it comes to your other classes. Materials required for the course. First and foremost, the Mastering Chemistry subscription. You need to buy the access code either through the bookstore, or you can click on the Mastering Chemistry link on Blackboard and purchase a subscription through there. You can also pay a little bit more to get access to the book online versus buying the book or renting the book. After you do that, well, actually, you need these 2 things. So the Mastering Chemistry, you need it. It's part of your grade, a good chunk of your grade. Scientific calculator. Doesn't have to be a graphing calculator, but you need to be able to do exponents and things like that, logs. So it can't just be a simple calculator that you add, subtract, multiply, divide. You need to be able to do some other more complex functions. You can pick one up from Walmart or order it on Amazon for like 20 bucks. If you get the Master in Chemistry and you have a scientific calculator, you should be okay in this course. If you want to get the book, you can, and it's listed here. You can purchase access online, you can rent it, you can buy it if you are interested in chemistry and you would like it as a resource. I was a biochemistry major. Those were the books that I prioritized and I purchased, and I still have them as references. If you're taking this as a gen ed course, you don't plan on taking chemistry ever again in your life, that's cool. I'm not offended. Okay. Any questions about required materials? You can always put your stuff in the chat. Yeah, if you buy the textbook, you can buy the bundle. So you get the access code with the textbook. Someone asked me in another class, if you rent the book, do you get the access code? And that I do not know. So if somebody else knows, let me know, because I'm trying to figure that out. If you rent the book, does that also include the access code? I don't know, but I'm going to try to find out. It does. Excellent. Thank you. I'm not going to explicitly tell you that the book is an option, but you have your own free will, and it will not harm you if you do not purchase it. If you like reading the book, highlighting, taking notes from the book, by all means do it. It will only help. But if you are strapped for cash because people are out of jobs, it's hard to find a job, all that other type of stuff, get the Mastering Chemistry subscription and the scientific calculator. Worry about the book later. Clear on that? And when I ask, like, are we clear or are we good, you can actually say, like, yeah, we're good, or nah, I don't understand that. So when I ask the question, let me know. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, thumbs up is fine. Clear, yes, good. Because I thrive on interaction. And if I'm just sitting here talking for 2.5 hours, I'm going to go crazy. Okay. I don't want to hear myself that long. So I need some breaks. I need some interaction with y'all. Excellent. Thank you. So this course moves really, really quickly. Yes. Who wants to just sit here and hear themselves for 2.5 hours? It's a long time. This is the most talking that I'm going to do in one sitting, like, ever. All the other sessions that we have, we're going to start off very interactive. You're going to have a do now. We're going to do practice problems, break you up into groups. It's not going to be me talking at y'all, because that's not helpful. Okay. So this course moves really quickly, okay? We're covering information from about 10 chapters, and we have about 13 weeks to do so. I'm going to let that settle. So especially if you're a first-year student coming straight from high school, or that's your last educational experience, this is very, very fast in comparison. Covering pretty much a chapter a week is a lot of material to be responsible for, and you have exams in the midst of still having to go to class and still having to take on new material and do homework and other assignments for it. So please treat this class with respect. It deserves it. Not because I'm teaching it, although I think I'm pretty cool, but seriously, it can whoop your behind. And if you get behind in the classwork, it's like it will just snowball. So don't get behind. And if you do, talk to me. Life happens. Okay, I had my first child when I was writing my dissertation. Life happened to me. It was a good thing. I'm very happy. But life happened, and it actually made me take longer to graduate because I didn't want to exert myself in a way that could endanger the pregnancy. So I chose to take an extra semester to finish so that I could be sane and healthy. For you, you need to make sure that you're staying sane and healthy and staying caught up. If life happens, something with your family, something, something tragic happens, whatever, you get sick, the first thing you need to do is talk to me. Talk to me, let me know what's going on, and let me work with you at the beginning versus being 5 weeks behind and trying to figure it out. Okay? So this class moves very quickly. The chapter check-in assignments, which you already saw your first one posted on Blackboard, those will be used as attendance. It's the first class meeting, so this is probably going to be the highest number of people that we have in attendance. There's 40 of y'all in this section right now, which is surprising to me. Okay, it's probably going to be the most people that we're going to have ever. It's going to slowly drop off. I get that. What I want to make sure you're doing is that you're engaging the material. So you're looking at the lecture or you're reading the book or somehow getting the information enough to do the chapter check-in assignment. So if you hand that in on time, that's your attendance. I will count it as you being present. The mastering chemistry and everything else, that's up to you. But as long as you do those chapter check-in assignments, your attendance is okay. Doesn't mean you're going to pass the class, but at least your attendance is on point, okay? The chapter check-in assignments are meant to really be literally that, something that you attempt right after watching the lecture. Shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes or so. And if you feel like you're really struggling on it, then you should let me know. Okay? So any questions about this bit of information? It moves fast. Chapter check-ins are attendance. Doesn't mean you're going to pass if you just do those, but you'll at least be counted present. So you have some wiggle room if your job decides that they want to schedule you or you need to pick up your sister or, babysit for somebody. I get it. Life happens. Just make sure you keep up with your work. All right? Grades. A lot of you might be nursing students or you're in psychology and you need to take this for your major. If you need at least a C minus is a 63 in this class. So if that's the bar that you need to set, then there you go. If you're just trying to get by and you just need to pass the class, you need at least a 55. So just keep that in mind as you go through your studies and prioritize your time and your effort. As far as the grade distribution, how your grade is going to be calculated, you're going to have 4 one-hour exams. And those I put on the syllabus, which week they're happening. Then there's the homework assignments and the quizzes on mastering chemistry. So 40% for the exams, 10% each. The homework assignments and quizzes on mastering chemistry, that's 25%. So that's why I'm stressing, please get the Mastering Chemistry subscription, because you don't want to lose out on a quarter of the points just because you didn't get it. Then there's the participation, which is 10%. That's the chapter check-ins for us. And then your final exam is 25%, and it's cumulative. So let's put a little bit of that in here. Yes. Oh, you're fine. No. So the first assignment is not due until August 30th. Okay. So the first Mastering Chemistry for Chapter 1 and the chapter check-in for Chapter 1 on Blackboard, those are due on August 30th. Okay. Yes. You're welcome. Yeah, no, I wouldn't slip that in there like, oh, you missed it. That's not fair. That's not fair. So I'm going to throw some of these notes up here. Yes. So nothing is due yet. Your first assignments are due on August 30th. So you still have another several days before anything is due. Okay? And that's for chapter 1. Okay. And I have those reminders at the end as well, just to kind of keep you grounded with the dates. So your final exam is cumulative. So everything that you learn starting chapter 1 all the way through to the end is fair game for the final exam. We will have some exam review and opportunities to kind of get a feel for the types of questions that are on the exam. Not just going to leave you out there like that. But this class is very time consuming. Okay. Are there any other questions? So we'll talk about assignments a little bit later on when we get to the other part when we start chapter 1. So we can save those questions for then. But are there other questions about, are we looking for ways to study or anything like that in terms of how to survive and thrive in Chem 104? If you have any questions like that, let me know. Yes. So you can literally log on and start doing homework without paying a dime, and you can do that for 2 weeks. Yeah, if you purchase the code, then you just enter the code and you're good for the semester. But if you haven't purchased it yet, then you still have a couple of weeks where you can log in, do your homework, and not get behind while you get the funds together to buy the subscription. Okay. Other questions? Otherwise, let me know if you're good or if you have a question. Put it in the chat or ask. Yes. One is work a little bit every day. So don't try to study or do the lecture, take notes, do the participation and the master in chemistry all over the course of a day because you'll die. Maybe not literally, but you might die a little bit inside. It's kind of a lot. So you need to spread it out as best you can. So if you can work on it for even an hour each day, maybe one day you watch the lecture and take notes, and that'll be about an hour. Then the next day you try some mastering chemistry and maybe the chapter check-in. Try the homework first. Don't just jump to the quiz because you get multiple chances to answer the homework questions, whereas the quiz is a just traditional quiz. So the best thing that you can do is to spread it out over the course of the week and schedule 1 to 2 hours each day to work on this course versus trying to force yourself to sit down for 6 hours and do all of the work for the week. That way, you'll kind of let your brain rest, let things marinate, and then you can look at it with fresh eyes. And sometimes just having that night's sleep in between, doing the work can help you see things a little bit more clearly. It'll also give you more time to reach out to me or to reach out to someone else in the class to get help. So I don't have set office hours yet. I'm going to do that as part of your practice exam for you to make sure that you can use the Respondus Lockdown browser and all that to poll you to see what time would be good to have available for you for office hours. So we'll do office hours through Collaborate Ultra, right on the board, go over practice problems, that kind of thing. But the biggest thing is don't try to do it all in one go because you're not going to retain the information the same. Spread it out. Find people who work with you. Do the homework together. Work on it together. You can do that virtually, or maybe if you have a roommate or something, or social distance somewhere. sit outside, like, but find a friend to commiserate with and do the work. So those are kind of the top tips that I can give you on how to do well in the course. Other questions? If not, you can say we're good or give me the thumbs up. Okay, cool. So we already hinted at kind of the flow of the class and how you should spend your time. But the idea is this is what they call a flipped classroom. So you're responsible for watching a lecture and taking notes before you come to class. So hopefully you've watched the lecture for chapter 1, taking your notes. Maybe you tried the participation assignment. Then, so you watch the lecture, take notes. Maybe you try some homework. You attend the lecture. You ask questions. We do practice problems together. If there's a particularly difficult topic that I know people are going to have questions on, then I may do a mini lecture on that part or use practice problems to focus specifically on certain areas of the chapter. And that'll be the live lecture like we're doing now. Then after that, you want to complete the remaining assignments that you have. So if there's a quiz that you need to do, finish the Mastering Chemistry homework, upload your participation assignment, which those assignments are always due on Sunday nights. So no question, it's not like, oh, well, this one is due Sunday, this one is due Thursday. No. Sunday, every Sunday, you should have something to submit. You don't have to question it. Just be like, okay, what chapter are we on? That's what I got to submit. Okay. So that's the flow of the class. We're doing chapter 1 now. The chapter 2 lecture is going to come out on Wednesday, and I'll let you know when that's out. So this week, you're going to be doing your chapter 1 homework, and you're responsible for watching the chapter 2 lecture. Yes, another question? So there's no quiz for chapter 1. It's just homework on Mastering Chemistry. But for the other chapters, there's Mastering Chemistry homework and there's a quiz. Okay. So there's always something to do for the class. It's one of those things that you have to remember. Oh yeah, just because we only meet once a week doesn't mean that I only have to touch this once a week. Literally every day you should be doing a little something so that you don't have a mountain of work to do on Sunday and you started it at 6 o'clock. Okay? So that's the class flow. Now I want to point out some of the key Blackboard features that we're going to be using. So if you need my email address for any reason, you can click on faculty information and you'll find me. Okay? The syllabus, which many of you probably have already found. There's a PDF of the syllabus already uploaded. If there's a change, say the grading allocation changes or we're changing, an exam date or time or something that's kind of big enough to put in the syllabus, I will post a revised syllabus reflecting that change. I'll let you know about it in an announcement, an email, and you'll see that, syllabus revised and then the date. So always go by the most recent syllabus. But I'll always connect with you about what's going on anyhow. Course content. This is what I call the meat of the course. So all of your chapters are going to have their own individual folders. And in each folder, there's going to be the link to the lecture, a link to the assignment that you need to do for the chapter check-in, and then additional practice problems or anything like that related to the chapter. The only thing that's not in there is the Mastering Chemistry. I can't do a link to each individual assignment. but the course content is where you're going to be going for the majority of the things you need for this course. So the quizzes, tests, and exams, that's where you're going to take all your exams. You don't really need to touch that now, but when I post the practice exam, it will be posted there. And generally speaking, I'll put an announcement out, and there will be a link associated with the Blackboard announcement that you can click on, and it'll take you right where you need to go. Mastering chemistry, pretty self-explanatory. You can enter your access code after you purchase it, or you can just click on Mastering Chemistry and make a new profile and everything right online. So you don't have to go to the bookstore and purchase the access code. If you have trouble setting up your Mastering Chemistry account, we have someone from Pearson who is doing office hours via Zoom, and she can help you get set up. So if that's something you're interested in, you need help kind of navigating Mastering Chemistry, I can hook you up with her. Her name is Erica, and she's very helpful. Any questions so far? Okay. Because I'm going through this pretty fast. Okay. The communication section, also very important. Announcements. You're going to want to check those regularly. I will always send my announcements as an email as well, but sometimes there will be links or things in them that you can't get in the email. So if you see that there's an announcement from the class, just do yourself a favor and look at it in Blackboard to make sure you're not missing anything. So when I post a practice exam, there's going to be a link to it. You can just go to Blackboard, click on that link in the announcement, and do the practice exam. Any kind of changes or, hey, class is going on right now, you should think about joining. I'll try to do those a few minutes before class to remind people. Make it a little bit easier. Just click on something, and then you're in class. But the announcements are how I will communicate with you primarily as a class. Course messages. That's supposed to replace email for us. I am supposed to encourage you to message me using course messages versus email. Email can get cluttered because y'all ain't the only ones emailing me. I teach a couple of other classes on top of y'all. And sometimes you'll email me and say, I'm in your class. Which one? Which section? So it gets to be a little bit confusing for me to have to go back and forth to say, well, what class are you in? What section are you in? And then 3 emails in, I finally figure out what it is that you need. So if you message me through course messages, which I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like, then I'll know who you are and what class you're in already. And then I can give you the relevant information. The last thing I want to point out, which we're already using this, Collaborate Ultra. Class meets here. Office hours will also be through Collaborate Ultra. So if you're having issues with using Collaborate, then you should definitely reach out to me and reach out to IT. Okay. Now let me show you quickly what the course messages looks like. So if you click on that course messages, you'll see a page that kind of looks like this. You'll have an inbox and a sent box. You're going to want to use the create message, and you can choose who to send the message to. Send a message to me. That is my name, Aaliyah Hefner. I'm your instructor. If you want to email me or contact me, choose me, not your classmates, okay? So give that a try, and if you slip up and send me an email, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it would help me to stay more organized and get to you in a more timely manner if you use course messages. That's it for that part. That's the syllabus. That's Blackboard. We'll talk more about exams next week. the kind of the particulars of it. We'll talk more about, and if you have questions about mastering chemistry, I'm happy to field those as well. But if you have no more questions, this would be the time that we take a short break for you to stretch your legs. I'm going to stretch mine, get some water, coffee, whatever, and then we can meet back here. So are we ready for a break? Yes. Okay. Me too. Because I'm going to be real with you. Most of the time, your professors are less enthusiastic about having class than you are. I like y'all already. I just like interacting with people. But sometimes I'm just not going to be feeling it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll tell you, I'm still here, still care, going to do my best. But I need a break too. So it is about to be 11:36. Let's take a 10-minute break. So we will break till 11:46 a.m. I'm going to pause the recording because we don't want 10 minutes of silence. I'll do like a 2-minute warning and then we'll come back together. All right? So break. Okay. We'll let a few more people throw their answers in. And I wasn't recording the very beginning of this slide, so just to do the recap if anyone's rewatching it, we're talking about the definitions of chemistry, matter, and chemicals. Everybody's putting their answers in, which is great. So we'll read the definitions and then we'll assign the words. So the study of the composition, structure, properties, and reactions of matter, that's chemistry. Okay, so chemistry, that's A. All the substances that make up the world, that's matter. And then substances that have the same composition and properties wherever they're found, that's a chemical. So those are the definitions that you were given for the first section of Chapter 1. As long as you understand those, you should be good to go. There was a learning check in the Chapter 1 lecture that it went over, what chemicals are, talked about toothpaste. So just you want to make sure that you pay attention to that and know what's a chemical and what's not a chemical. So I'm going to assume that we're good on the definition because everybody was coming in and chiming in with the right answers. All right. So now we're going to do a quick learning check type question about chemicals versus non-chemicals. I felt silly writing this question, like creating it, but it's just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So which of the following does not contain chemicals? We have a pill of ibuprofen, glass of milk, light from a laser, and a rock. Which one does not contain chemicals? Yep, everybody's getting it. Light from a laser. Okay. Captain Obvious Award. But hey, take the easy questions. Be grateful for the easy questions because that means it's a question you're going to get right on an exam. The next section that we covered in Chapter 1 was the scientific method. Now, by show of hands, how many of you have already been introduced to the scientific method before this class? Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So it's kind of taught a little bit differently everywhere, but it's the same overall goals. So there's the observation where it's something you see or notice. Could be something in nature, how something always reacts a certain way. That's an observation. What's a hypothesis? You can give me like a 2 or 3 word answer in the chat. What's a hypothesis? Educated guess. That one is, that is a usual answer. Yep. Educated guess. We're also going to expand that a little bit to say it's an explanation or a possible explanation for an observation. It's a little bit more specific. So you observe something and then you make some kind of an educated guess that's a possible explanation for whatever it is that you observed. The experiment is just what you do, right? What you do to try to see, okay, is my hypothesis true? Do I need to rework it? So you perform experiments to test your hypothesis. And finally, the conclusion, you're going to do some kind of analysis, right? You're going to analyze your data, and then you're going to say, okay, my hypothesis was on point, or maybe I need to revisit. So you're going to ask the question, does my hypothesis provide a valid explanation for this observation? This seems like it's a very linear process, and obviously you're not going to be doing an experiment before you have an observation. Oh, your screen is black now? Ah, okay. It says that screen sharing is reconnecting. For some reason, it disconnected. So just hold on. Can you still hear me, though? Yes. Okay. Screen sharing is just going to take a second to reconnect. I don't know why it stopped. But we can just kind of talk about this still a little bit. So the conclusion is the data analysis. And then you kind of go back and forth with, okay, let me tweak my hypothesis a little bit. Then do some more experimentation. Then draw some more conclusions. And you keep going and going until you form some kind of a theory or a law. And we're still reconnecting. Might take a second. Screen sharing, once it's lost, I don't know why it takes a minuto. Let me see what I can do here. Give me 1 second. Oh. See, all I had to do was threaten it with the power of God, and it said, I'm going to come back. All right. So there we go. Now I can draw my arrows. Okay. So once you have your conclusion, then you go back up to your hypothesis and you rework it. And then you experiment some more. And then you find more conclusions. And that's kind of a loop, okay? Yes, I apologize. I'm a little bit crazy. So that's the scientific method. Now let's put it to practice a little bit. So for A, B, and C, I want you to state whether or not it's an observation, hypothesis, experiment, or conclusion. And there's a similar learning check in the Chapter 1 lecture. So A, you notice that your plant always grows towards the window. B, a study demonstrates sunlight is essential for vitamin D production in humans. And C, you think plants grow towards sunlight. Yeah, everybody's saying A is an observation, and that's correct. So it looks like we're definitely agreeing on, let's see. So B should be a conclusion. I saw some saying an experiment. So a study demonstrates. That means that we've done the experiment and we've looked at the data, and what it shows is that sunlight is essential for vitamin D production. Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky for finding out the conclusion versus the experiment. For conclusions, you want to look for words like shows, demonstrates, or um, it might be results show, studies show, something like that. But it's going to be a word that demonstrates we've done something, and all the something we've done points to this conclusion. And then C, you think plants grow towards sunlight. That is a hypothesis. And I think everybody that chimed in got that one. So the figuring out which one is the conclusion versus an experiment is probably going to be the trickiest one. So questions about that, or are we good? Okay. So that's the scientific method. On the exam is pretty much going to be multiple choice. There may be a fill in the blank or something like that, but you're not going to have to write out a whole example of the scientific method or write the definition or anything like that. So these kinds of multiple choice type questions are similar to what you're going to see on the exam and in mastering chemistry. The next topic that we talked about was identifying place values. So this is just looking at numbers, figuring out, okay, this digit, what place value is it in? So take a second and do A, B, and C. There's an underlined digit in each number. Tell me the place value of the underlying digit. I'll give you a minute or so to do that. It looks like we're getting it. And again, if this isn't review, because everybody's not chiming in, and that's fine. If it's not review, don't just sit and stew and be scared. Let me know. And if you don't feel comfortable doing so in the chat with everyone, you can reach out to me after class and just make sure I know. That's what I'm here for. And truthfully, I will get the same paycheck. So you may as well get your money's worth. You're paying tuition. Get your money's worth. So don't sit in silence. All right. A, we said that was the tens place. I think everybody got that. B is the thousandth place. It's a strange looking word. And then C was the thousands. If you have trouble remembering that, there's all these little kind of mnemonic devices that kind of help you remember the different places. You can find videos on YouTube, you can find images and stuff on Google. Search one of those out and put it in your notes, whatever suits your fancy, if you have trouble remembering. But I don't think we need to stay here. Everybody seemed to get it, so we're good to go. Next is going to be addition and subtraction. So I feel like I'm giving an entry exam or something. So this is just making sure that we remember how to use our rules for addition and subtraction with positive and negative numbers. So go ahead and do A, B, and C, and put your answers in the chat, and then we'll go over it. So I think everybody got these. And let's be real, we have calculators. So as long as you put it in properly, you should get the right answer. But this brings me to an important point. With your scientific calculator, let's say you were entering letter A, that question into your calculator. Make sure that you know where the change sign key is. So it's usually a little minus button in parentheses on your calculator. Make sure you know where that is and how to use it. And I'll point out other things that you'll need to know how to use as we go along on your calculator. And if you don't know how to do it, especially when it comes to scientific notation, putting it into your calculator properly and being able to read the answer in scientific notation on your calculator is very important. So if you have questions about that later on when we get to that, let me know and I can help you out. There's all different types of calculators out there, so you can Google your calculator and get specific help. I'm sure there's a YouTube video on whatever calculator you have. But if you need specific help with the problems, then I can always help with that too. And you can kind of send me a picture of your calculator, and I can give you an idea of what you're doing wrong and how to correct it. All right? So that was math, addition and subtraction addition. Now we have some multiplication and division. A, B, and C. Go ahead, give it a shot. Again, these are going to be the simplest questions that you get. Enjoy it. The chapter 1, chapter 2 exam, that first exam, will hopefully be an easy one. It looks like everybody got these right as well. So make sure that you are familiar with these rules because we will be doing math. Chapter 2 is kind of a big chapter, and the homework is actually broken up into 2 sections. But chapter 2 is very math heavy. So make sure you're familiar with your calculator. I'm going to sound like a broken record, But once we start chapter 2 material and you see it, you're like, oh, okay. Especially if you haven't taken chemistry in a while. Maybe you did well in it in high school, but you didn't take it in college and this is your first year. It's it's not difficult, but you have to pay attention to detail and you need to know how to use your calculator. So I think we feel comfortable to move on. And if I'm wrong, let me know. Like, don't be afraid to say, like, wait, Dr. Hefner, help. That's what I'm here for. Now we're going to move on to percentages. And along with doing recovering percentages, I also want to cover kind of how to tackle word problems because you will encounter word problems and you'll need to kind of sort through what information is relevant and what information is there just because it's there. So read the problem and give it a shot, and then I'll go through kind of my process of problem solving and we'll find the answer together. So take 2 minutes and try to work on this problem. Yeah, you can round to a whole number of students. I don't think 3/4 of a person can be present. Okay, great. So I'm going to go through it how I solve a problem, not because I think you know how to solve. I think you need to learn how to solve percentages, but because it's a process and it's a method that you can use for solving any word problem. First thing you do is read the problem, obviously, right? Oh, all right, so we're looking good here. So the answer, looking for about 34 students. Okay. But I want to walk through this a little bit, not because I think you need to learn how to solve problems about percentages, but because the problem solving method is useful for any word problem. The first thing you have to do is read the problem, obviously, right? So there's 45 students in the class. Only 75% of the students are present. How many students are actually present in class? This is actually roughly accurate for our class. There's about 45 students. And at this moment in time, there are 35 people logged in. So I made this up before I even knew. That's prescient. So we know that we have 45 students. It went out again. I don't see, it doesn't say that screen sharing dropped. Up now it did. Okay, we'll wait a minute. Thanks for letting me know. We'll wait a minute and let it reconnect. Raise your hand if you can still hear me. Okay. Yeah, screen sharing just, I don't know why it's being ridiculous. We can talk it through until it reconnects, changes its mind. So whenever you're doing a word problem, you're going to want to read the problem, pull out the relevant information, and I like to rewrite it and then not just write the information, but what it means. So in this case, we're doing percentages. So we have 45 students in the class. That's the whole number of students in the class. And if a percentage is part over a whole times 100%, 45 is the whole. What else we know is that only 75% of the students are present. And the question is how many students are present. And give me 1 second, my IT help is here, aka my husband. So he's gonna check out our Wi-Fi. Alrighty. So it looks like a lot of us got it. I started recording again. So right, all you're gonna do is divide both sides by RT. So PV over RT is equal to N. Now you're going to see this equation again in chapter 8. This is actually a gas law. So this isn't just a bunch of random letters. This is an actual equation that we're going to use later on in the class. I have another example of another gas law. This one's a little bit more complex. I'll give you a hint though. What you have to do before you can solve for V1 is cross multiply. So multiply V1 by T2 and V2 by T1 so that you end up with something a little bit more manageable. Then you can solve from there. Give it a shot. Put your answer in the chat. Yeah, but looks like we got one person who got it. Yeah. So to isolate V1, you have to divide. Once you do your cross multiplication, you have to divide both sides by T2. You get V1 on one side and V2 times T1 over T2 on the other side. So again, this is another equation you're going to see close to the end of the course, and you'll know what all these V's and T's and everything mean. You'll need to be able to rearrange equations and solve for variables. So it looks like the people who are still with me and participating got it. So let me know. Give me a thumbs up or something. Let me know that you're with me, even if you didn't put an answer down. Okay. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So the last section that we have is interpreting graphs. We had a graph in chapter 1 in the lecture where we're looking at the volume of a balloon as it relates to temperature. And we saw that as the temperature increased, the volume of the balloon increased. So I got a little creative and made my own graph. So we're looking at the length of a class in minutes and the level of student interest. I have 3 questions on the side here. We're going to start with question 1. What is missing from this graph? There's one major point that's missing and one kind of minor thing that's missing. So take a second, look at the graph, and tell me what is missing. I'll give some other folks a chance to answer too. Yep, the title. There is no title for this. It's just a graph. And while it's self-explanatory enough, it needs a title. Always have a title in addition to labeling the X and Y axis. The other thing that's sort of missing, which is a little bit of a minor point in this case, level of student interest, there's no unit there. Sometimes you're going to have a unitless axis. It's labeled, but how do you really measure a level of student interest? There is no centimeters or millimeters or anything like that that you can put. So it's just high versus low. Okay. So number 2, describe the relationship between student interest and the length of the class. So does interest increase, decrease? Does it do both? What do you see? And then I'll give you some terminology to help describe that. So give me a couple of words that describe the relationship between student interest and the length of the class. All right, the longer the class is, the less interest. Let's be real, sometimes that's how it is. 2.5 hours is a long time to be interested. As the class time progresses, the level of interest starts to tank. But how do we describe that? So we have interest decreasing and the time increasing. We talked about a direct relationship with volume and temperature with balloons. This is indirect. So what happens to one variable, the opposite happens to the other. So as you increase the student interest, the length of time of the class is shorter, and vice versa. So this is our answer to number 2. So we talked about indirect or direct in the video on YouTube, and now we're talking about indirect to give another example. Question 3. A class lasts 30 minutes. Estimate the student level of interest. So you're going to use the graph to give an approximation of what the level of student interest would be if a class were about 30 minutes in. And this is just a rough estimate. Six, 6.5, somewhere in there. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, you find approximately where 30 minutes will be on the x-axis. So that's my approximate 30 minutes. From there, I'm going to go up to my line. And then I'm going to draw another line over, try to be straight, to the y-axis. And that looks to be somewhere in the ballpark of 6, 6.5. So I would accept anywhere in that range of an answer if I were giving this on an exam. So you need to be able to figure out what's missing. Maybe I could have asked you propose a title, and you could write a title that's descriptive. You're definitely going to need to be able to describe the relationship, whether it's direct or indirect, and know what those mean. And lastly, you're going to need to be able to interpret the graph in a way that if there isn't a specific data point labeled, you can still look and estimate some kind of value from the graph. So are we good on interpreting graphs? Yes. So a direct relationship, if we had time and interest, it would be like this. So what happens to one? What happened to the other? One increases, the other increases. Okay? That would be direct. Other questions? Right. So if you have the opposite happening, so one increases and the other one decreases, that's an indirect relationship. Great. Other questions? Please feel free. Interrupt me. That's all right. But it looks like several of you said that you're good on interpreting graphs. Yes. If there's a question, go right ahead. We haven't covered significant figures yet. When we do, then you'll have that answer. We're going to actually hit that in chapter 2. So in this case, 6.0 to 6.5 is what I would want if I were doing sig figs here. But we're not interested in that right now. Right now, we're interested in just the concept of interpreting a graph. We'll revisit it when we do sig figs to know how many significant figures you're supposed to have based on your instrument that you're using to make the measurement. So don't worry, we'll make it more complex, just not yet. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. If we're good, then we'll move on to the final slide, which is upcoming dates to know. Okay. We talked about mastering chemistry. There is the introduction to mastering chemistry, which is just to help you understand how to put in your answers and how to use the platform. So if you've never done a mastering class, that will help you be able to put your answers in, because you don't want to get something wrong just because you didn't format it properly. So do that first. It shouldn't take you long. Then there's the chapter 1 homework. There's no quiz this week. It's just homework. It should take you max about an hour. But if all the concepts that we did were pretty good for you, then it might be as short as about 30 minutes. Okay. There's also the chapter check-in for chapter 1. That's also due on August 30th. You're going to submit that on Blackboard. Make sure you submit it as a PDF. So you click on the link for the assignment, not the PDF or the Word document of the assignment, but there's the actual link that you click on in Blackboard for the assignment. And it'll bring you to a page where you can browse your computer and upload your work. That's what you need to do to submit to Blackboard. You should also get a notification, like an email or something like that from Blackboard saying that your work was submitted. If it's not submitted, I can't see it and I can't grade it. So there's save as a draft and there's submit. You want to submit. save as a draft just means that it's there, but I can't view it. So if you have issues or questions with Blackboard, you can always contact IT. Blackboard has a lot of videos on YouTube, and their help sections are actually pretty helpful. Or you can contact me and I can help you out. Yeah, it's pretty much the same for like a math class. I assign the dates and the due dates and things like that for all the homeworks and stuff, and then you do it. It tallies up your points. And so some these homework assignments and quizzes are weighted, so everything is not equal. Um, but it's the same thing in terms of inputting. So if you've used it before, then doing the introduction to mastering chemistry should be a breeze. Other questions? Oh, okay. So the adaptive follow-up. So if you don't get at least an 85 on the homework, then you have the opportunity to get some more points by doing the adaptive follow-up, which means that you're just doing some extra problems in the areas that you struggled in. You may not have the time to do that every time, but I recommend that you try to, or at least do some of the problems to get as many points as you can. So if you get at least an 85% on the homework, then you don't have to do the adaptive. If you get less than that, you have an extra couple of days after the due date of the homework to do a little bit of extra homework on those topics. So it'll be an additional question set or two question sets that you can do to shore up your skills and get some points back on the homework. It's not required that you do it, but it's certainly strongly encouraged because it'll help you learn what you did wrong and, boost your grade. So every assignment, whether it's a homework or a quiz, has an adaptive follow-up, and you have the opportunity to earn some points back. Other questions? Yes. Right. So you don't have to do it, but it's up to you. No, it doesn't work that way. But I will post extra credit for everybody to do that will be available for the whole semester. There are certain topics that are kind of tough, so everyone will have extra credit opportunities. This is kind of like, okay, I'm going to give you an extra 5 problems so that you can, maybe not fail the homework, but maybe you get a 60 or a 65. You know what I mean? Okay. Anything else? And it can be about anything, the mastering chemistry, about what we just covered, the syllabus, suggestions on what you should eat for lunch. I'm hungry, y'all. Yes. So just show me how you solved it, just like I did so you don't have to write out divide by this. Just show me how you did it. Show me the steps. And I'll give you feedback too. So don't worry so much about the first homework. I'll give you feedback on, hey, show me this, show me that. So you can see that feedback in Blackboard. And I'll do that for every assignment. You're welcome. Anything else? If there are no further questions, we're done about 30 minutes early, even with technical difficulties. I did start recording again. Some of the percentage stuff got a little bit messed up. You guys kind of seem to get it, but the annotated notes will be up as well. So you can follow along with those. Yes, ma'am. So if you go to, let me see if I can, that's going to take too long to go backwards. So course content, I'll write it down as I say it. You're going to click on that on the side menu. And then from there, since we're talking about chapter 1, you'll click on the chapter 1 folder. And then inside of that, there's the link for YouTube for the lecture. There's the assignment as well. You're going to want to click on that assignment. Am I taking attendance? No, not traditional seeing who's present in the chat or, in the classroom. I am counting your participation as your attendance. So the chapter check-ins, you hand those in, then you're present in class. You're engaging the material. I'm sorry, I started answering another question before I made sure that I fully answered yours. Is that the question that you had about where to find the assignment? Okay, so this video specifically, once we're done and I post it, it's going to be posted to YouTube. That I will also have a live lecture folder inside of that chapter folder. And then there will be the notes from this, so the PDF and the link. So I'm going to try to keep it real organized for y'all. No, no, no. Yeah, go to Blackboard and click on the link. You're welcome. But we're clear on the attendance part. The chapter check-in, that's your attendance. If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. We ended a little early today. Might not happen all the time, but when we end early, I'm not going to hold you.